the notorious leader of one of the biggest Chinese organized crime groups in the world, which engaged in a variety of illicit operations including human trafficking, racketeering, illegal gambling, and drug trafficking. Today's video is all about the rags to riches life journey of the Macau triad boss, Wan Kwok Koi, aka the Broken Tooth. Tough beginnings. Born in 1955, Wan Kwok Koi had a difficult upbringing, spending his early years in the slums of Macau, and surviving on the streets until joining the 14K triad gang, and starting to work for Ying Wai. Ying Wai was a man of power who sped up his ascent inside the criminal world. Wan's standing in the 14K was rising by the day, but he was hungry for more power. After some time he got his wish fulfilled, when Wai ordered Wan to kill the triad leader, Mo Ding-ping. This started a year-long turf battle that ended when Ping had to leave Macau, to avoid being charged with murder. However, with all the recent happenings, Wan had grown on to become one of the most famous people in the criminal underworld. Turf wars, but consequently, Wai grew frightened of Wan's well-known reputation, and tension between the two gangsters started to increase. This resulted in another brutal turf battle in 1996 and 1997, when the Shui Feng joined forces with a rival triad clan. This turf war was so extreme that even the local newspapers were afraid to mention it. This was the result of an unsigned letter, which was delivered to numerous local newspapers in the early months of 1997, with a warning that any mention of Broken Tooth Koi in the media are not permitted, otherwise bullets won't have eyes and blades won't have feelings. Wan then briefly left Macau in late 1997, in order to evade 2 arrest warrants. One resulting from Macau's new anti-triad statute, and the other for heroin trafficking from China. But in August, a Portuguese judge exonerated Wan of all charges, before abruptly announcing his retirement and returning to Portugal the next day. The takeover. This was all Wan needed to come back, and after that, Wan started attacking Wai in public, putting up signs accusing him of being a drug dealer, and warning that anyone who went to one of Wai's casinos would become his enemy. Wan eventually gathered enough clout and influence to fully take over Wai's rackets. At this point, he was bringing in $6 million a month from his licensed casinos. Wan kept an extremely fashionable public persona, dressing in pricey clothes and jewelry, driving expensive sports cars, much like Nicky Barnes and John Gotti. He had 3 marriages before receiving his prison sentence, and was the father of 6 children. His gangster lifestyle also caused him to sustain a number of wounds. He has suffered 2 gunshot wounds and severe meat cleaver wounds to his arms, making it impossible for him to straighten his 2 middle fingers. The movie star. After taking over the city in a heroic manner and living the life he always wanted, Wan approached famous Hong Kong filmmaker Henry Fong Ping in the fall of 1997 about making a movie based on his life. The outcome was the 1998 film Casino, also known as Ho Kong Fong Wan, in which actor Simon Yam portrayed a triad lord living a luxurious lifestyle in the underworld of Macau. Wan was so into the details of the movie that he himself consented to lengthy study sessions so that the movie would be as realistic as possible. He also agreed to use his massive clout in Macau to assist the production. One of his more ridiculous antics was shutting down the Macau-Taipa Bridge, which the government of Macau and traffic police had refused to do, for a few hours so that a critical scene in the movie could be filmed. Wan abruptly halted traffic on both sides of the bridge, without any kind of warning, and neither the Macau government nor the police intervened to reopen it to regular traffic flow. This resulted in a 2-hour stoppage in traffic to and from Macau, and this was the sole route between the Macau mainland and Taipa Koloan at the time. Quite amazingly, a week before the film's premiere, when he was watching his own movie in the casino, Wan was detained and accused of unlawful gambling, criminal association, and attempted murder of Police Chief Antonio Marquez Batista with a vehicle bomb. He was found guilty and sentenced to prison in November 1999 for 15 years, after a historic trial, along with 8 of his associates, including his brother, Wan Kwok Hong. Later, his sentence was shortened to 13 years 10 months in prison. Life after prison. Wan was freed from prison on December 1, 2012, and returned to the casino junket industry shortly after. The man, better known by his gangster nickname Broken Tooth, was able to gradually reintegrate into Macau's acceptable casino culture. His crime started to grow that included murders, car bombings, smuggling of weapons, money laundering, human trafficking and racketeering. Nobody who knew him was shocked that he had returned to his actual old haunts, but it remained a mystery as to how he had managed to establish himself as a legitimate businessman in various Asian nations. However, all of this was now being done secretively, as Juan grew conscious of his life. Juan maintained his innocence, backed up by businesses in Cambodia and Palau, in an effort to publicly remake himself as a respectable businessman. He also joined the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, an advisory body to the Communist Party in power. After being released from prison, Juan apparently developed a keen interest in the World Hongmen History and Culture Association, which has deep historical origins in China. This organization has widely been compared to the controversial and clandestine Western organization known as the Freemasons. Chinese immigrants to the United States saw the Hongmen as social organizations that could help them remit what they earned back to mainland China, helping them deal with personal, family, and career issues. Reportedly, Juan joined the association because he was curious about the history of the Hongmen, but many are of the view that he did all of this just so he could have access to several Hongmen networks abroad. The leader of Hongmen. He established and rose to the position of chairman of the World Hongmen History and Culture Association. The Chinese Cultural Association had tens of thousands of members, who expanded into Cambodia as a result of an upsurge in Chinese investment in the Belt and Road infrastructure and the gambling industry. He officially opened the organization's headquarters in Cambodia with the support of the Cambodian government, stating that the association will help establish Hongmen schools to enable foreigners and overseas Chinese to study Chinese books, and to enable foreigners to read about subjects such as loyalty, filial piety, benevolence, and justice. In conjunction with the opening of the new Hongmen headquarters, the Hongmen cryptocurrency was launched. Juan stated that he planned to issue 1 billion HB, each worth $1. He announced at the occasion that he also intended to engage in e-commerce and to introduce watches, teas, hotels, and casinos with ties to the Hongmen using cryptocurrency. This was not it, as Juan participated in the initial coin offering of the cryptocurrency known as Dragon Coin in October 2017 by the Macau Dragon Group, a company that operates hotels and casinos. The ICO was created to attract mainland Chinese gamblers to Macau, alongside the local junket system. Dragon Coin marketed itself as a lower-fee alternative for high rollers, who typically pay junket organizations for access to gaming credit to get around tough Chinese laws on transferring money out of the country. Consequently, the ICO raised $320 million and was one of the biggest in the world. The World Hongmen History and Culture Association, which is thought to be a 14K triad front, was subject to sanctions by the U.S. Department of Treasury. Sanctions were also announced by the U.S. Treasury Department on Juan for expanding his triad criminal network throughout Southeast Asia and the Belt and Road economic region of China. This was done because he was directly associated with a casino construction project in Laos, ostensibly with the approval of the regional administration. The sanctions. The Belt and Road Initiative, which is a major trade and infrastructural initiative that is the flagship project of Chinese President Xi Jinping, includes both Cambodia and Laos as its members. The project, which was first proposed in 2013, calls for tens of billions of dollars in loans and investments to build ports, roads, and railroads, to establish new trade corridors connecting China to Asia, Africa, and Europe. The project came under heavy fire, especially from Western nations who claimed that China is burdening developing nations with debt that they cannot afford to pay back. The U.S. Treasury claimed that the BRI had connections to organized crime. These claims were supported by the evidence that the Chinese companies behind the BRI initiatives shared a number of characteristics, including leadership, allegedly Juan, who has connections to criminal organizations or individuals engaged in illegal activity, not only in China but also in other parts of Southeast Asia. Other than that, all signs pointed towards the involvement of Juan, who has a hold of pre-existing organizations that deal with casinos and cryptocurrencies, along with online advertising that claims to be connected to Beijing's BRI. Not only the US but Malaysia is also currently looking for the 67-year-old leader of the 14K triads for fraud, as well as other crimes. These investigations come as a result of the allegations that he failed to properly dispose of $1.4 million worth of shares in the Malaysian Bursa-listed software company Inex. A few months prior to this alleged fraud, INEC suddenly announced Wan as its new non-executive chairman, an appointment that only lasted 4 months. To the astonishment of the nation's business sector, he has been secretly connected to all the major projects that involve the production of illegal drugs and transnational organized crime organizations that operate in and around the Golden Triangle. Widely referred to as the former Macau triad boss, he is said to be hiding somewhere close to Malaysia and continuing his criminal activities while being chased by a number of countries. Well, that's it for today's video. We hope you enjoyed the content of the video. If you did, show some love and hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel so that you never miss out on any of the amazing videos we have in store for you.